Good evening. Since 2012, the Entrepreneur in Residence programs have been popular for business-minded people to learn from successful entrepreneurs on how to start up a new business. This year's Entrepreneur in Residence is Patricia Quintero. She is an entrepreneur with over 15 years of experience working in large and small organizations in Canada, the United States, England, and Colombia. She is the founder of Patricia Quintero Interiors, a residential interior design company, and Creating Marketing, a marketing consulting services company. Patricia has been responsible for leading numerous marketing teams and programs from inception through to final completion. Patricia will be interviewed by Michael Halinka. Michael has been our master of ceremonies for every Entrepreneur in Residence launch since 2012. Michael is a tenured professor at George Brown College, an instructor at the University of Toronto, continuing education, and a CBC radio commentator. Before every program, I will read the Toronto Reference Library and Land Acknowledgement Statement. Toronto Reference Library is on Indigenous land. This is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Wendat and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Toronto Public Library gratefully acknowledges these Indigenous nations for their guardianship of this land. We'd also like to remind and reaffirm as Torontonians and Canadians our accountability to these Indigenous nations and to all Indigenous peoples and communities living in Toronto.
So, Patricia, I've had this wonderful opportunity to speak with you backstage and meet you a couple of weeks ago. Could you tell all these people a little bit about yourself and how you come to be in this position right now?
Thank you, Michael. Thank you to Annie, and thank you to everybody at the library for the opportunity to be here tonight. Yeah, I mean, it's been quite the journey. For the past roughly 10 years, I've been on my own as an entrepreneur. I've now been in Canada for 16 years. I was born and raised in Colombia. I have a background in business and marketing. I went to business school in Colombia. I then moved to the UK, where I pursue a master in economic development and finance. And I work for a very large multinational company there. Again, I really launched my marketing career with this company. Loads of international traveling, loads of large events, marketing campaigns, brochures, really doing the research to understand what the next products need to be. So that sort of front end customer-driven experience was like what really gave me a lot of the insight and knowledge in terms of where to look for the needs of the client. And I think that was a big eye opener. From the UK, I moved to Canada. Here, I've also worked with a lot of large companies, continue to do marketing work, and I've always had this thing inside me that I wanted to have my own business, but I always felt that as a business person, I needed to have a skill that I wanted to perfect so I can dedicate my business to that. And that's sort of when I decided to go to George Brown College, and I did interior design, interior decorating. I was working full-time during the day. I was going to design school in the evenings, and I later worked at an interior design company, like getting some experience. And I decided to go on my own. I had 4 amazing years of doing that. Along came John, and life changed. So, not everything goes as expected. And it was an amazing experience in terms of, it was very validating. It was quite fun because I actually decided, I worked for a design firm later. So it was great. I had personally built this concept in paper of how I thought I wanted for my business to work. And it was great to get the hands-on experience learning from other people that had been in business for a while, and then being able to get a blend of both and implement them. I ran that company for 4 or 5 years, it was great. Eventually, I had a lot of personal reasons where I had to like slow down, and later I was called by somebody in the design industry to come to their office and do some consulting and work in marketing. So at that point, personally, it was great for me to go back and blend those two aspects, so the business and the design. I'd worked in the marketing side of the design industry for 2 more years. And eventually I said, you know what, I mean, I really need to go back to myself. I think that when you are an entrepreneur, you just know, you fly better like with your own wings. So I went back, I started creating marketing.
And how long ago was that? So this is sort of the
This
new...
is in 2014.
Okay.
So I launched Creating in 2014. I said, I sense a need in the industry to have companies that will come and really help you tailor your marketing. Like you basically build the campaigns, understand, help you with a lot of the launches and research in particularly. So I did that for 4 years. Since 2014, I now in my, I don't know, whatever, 6 years or whatever. And I really love it. But however, for the past year and a half, I went back to university. I did an MBA, and I'm now actually in the process of relaunching and tweaking that concept to have something that's a little bit more delivering on the results. You know, first I was very brand front-end focused. I really now want to be able to work with the owners on getting to the results that they want, because I learned personally that there's a lot of the times there's a lot more behind the scenes within the business, and so that's what I'm now trying to bridge that. I'm relaunching my business in many aspects, and new branding, new website, and also revamping the service offering.
And so what is basically your service offering right now, or what will it be?
It'll be basically like, as I said, trying to get a little bit more data-centric. I think that the strategy...
But Patricia, so what is your business, though? So what exactly is the service?
The service is basically, it's marketing, consulting, and business consulting service. So I can come to your company. I can really do an audit. We start with an audit of what you have done, what are your services, what are your products, identifying and understanding your clients, making sure that the client and the service offering and the target audience is in line. And then also going through the data. That's the component that I didn't have in the past that I really want to now come and implement. What is happening in the market, whether it be through the analytics, and then what are the results, and what is it that's being happening internally, and try to fill that gap in the sense of where do you want to be versus where you are, and also where are your customers on the experience side, and what is it exactly that you are delivering? Because sometimes as business owners, we get too hung up on the day-to-day. We are sort of doing stuff, but we don't really have that measurement of what is it that it's actually happening and that our customers are experiencing in the outside.
Now, what do you think, after being through all the various experiences, are sort of the key things that make an entrepreneur successful? Or what do you think sort of has to be inside someone in order to be an entrepreneur in the first place? And do you think everybody can be an entrepreneur?
I think everybody can be an entrepreneur. However, I don't think this is for everybody. We all have I'm sure we all can be passionate and have a lot of our strength internally to pursue our dreams and pursue what we want. However, as an entrepreneur, you need to be very resilient and very aware. I mean, I boiled this down to me there's 3 big personal traits. That is to be aware of what is it that you want to be, what is the strengths that you have, be aware of what you don't have. I always say I don't know everything, but my goal is to know who knows what I don't know. So you need to understand that it's also a very lonely journey, and you also want to connect with those people that know what you don't know, but also that can keep you up to date. You need to stay relevant. I think as an entrepreneur, you always want to be eager to learn more and to be the expert on whatever your offering is saying. sorry, I think you need to also understand that in today's day, we need to be delivering solutions. People want solutions to problems, not necessarily like a product. It's really, we don't want to build a product and then find a customer. We want to build that product that customer already wants. So there's that relevance. We need to be aware of the risks that are involved. There's a lot of, like when we decide to venture and to go on our own, there's a lot that we're putting at stake. I mean, it's not only the financial, but it's also, say, it could be your reputation. It could be, tension within our family, because we need to have that buy-in from the people around us that we're gonna take this risk. It could be health. I mean, you are gonna be working a lot more hours than what you probably do if you had a normal job. So I think that is the one thing. And then the big one is understand that you're gonna be choosing, so a big ability to have decision making. You're gonna be making decisions all the time, like it's over and over. You have to how to manage your time, how to manage the money. You are the go-to person within their business in terms of the last decision that's going to be taken, and then also ability to decide and to execute, because you need to come up. You can have the best idea in the world, but you really need to make sure that you can make that happen. So that to me, that's really what you need to be aware before you get into it.
Terrific. Well, I think that almost everybody has one of these booklets. Is that fair, that these were distributed? So what Patricia's done, and this is, again, I've been associated now with this program for 7 years, but I've never seen anyone lay out such a systematic and well thought out series of seminars. Patricia, I thought maybe you could take us all through basically the 6 seminars where you're looking to accomplish, and then maybe talk a little bit about the one-to-one consultation process.
Yep.
So let's start with seminar number 1.
So we have a series of 6 seminars. Actually, there's more brochures over there if you want. There's a series of 6 seminars. The first one that we want to start, and my goal originally, the way I envisioned the program, is to have from the idea moment to the actual, I'll say, launch and execution of the actual operation of the company. So if you are curious about launching your own company, the first seminar is about the entrepreneurial journey.
And just to bring everything, so it's going to be next Monday night?
It is Monday.
Right here in this location, please.
It is, all the seminars are going to take place here at this location. So they're going to be on the 3rd floor at the Hinton room. So the first seminar is the entrepreneurial journey. What are you going to consider when you're going to launch your business? So my goal here is to ask, what I said before, what are the risks? What do you need to be aware? What traits do you need to have? And most importantly is I want to bring a concept that I was introduced very recently at Rodman, and it's the options that we have as an entrepreneur to position ourselves, and that they're not always all the same. So how are we going to pursue our route to market? There's a lot of routes and different options. Sometimes we think of, say, we can create, I don't know, this beautiful glass, and we always think, I need to have a store so I can sell the glass. But I think that it's important to consider that we sometimes don't need to be the one that's producing the glass. We can partner with somebody else that has the idea, or we can, sell our idea to somebody else and then be an advisor to a different company. So there's a lot of different routes that we can bring forward. That it's very daunting when you have this concept that you want to create, and you feel, I need $10 million to have a glass manufacturing plant. But once you start like slicing and dicing the concept, there are many things that you can go around it, and maybe you don't need those 10 millions. Maybe all you need is like 3 great connections, a good lawyer, and a good contract, and you can be, all of a sudden you're in business with by licensing your product or something. So I think I want to bring that sort of twist, because we can get over it. Seminar number 2 is, okay, so we have this great concept. How do we now bring it to what we call the MVP, that's minimum viable product? Traditionally, there's been the idea that we have to launch and then see what happens. but like, new theories, I'm going to be using a lot of the lean startup methodology by Eric Ries. There's a book, he has a book, it's called The Lean Startup. And it's become a big movement because he's the first person that managed to bring together some, I would say, like a strategy behind the startups strategy. Like, so basically, the idea is how can we go to market as fast as possible with the smallest, most basic product possible to gain the insight and bring it back. Change whatever is not working, change whatever customers don't want, and then go back again. So it's build, measure, learn. Basically, it's a whole loophole where you sort of go, get there, get the information, test it with clients, bring it back, adjust it. It doesn't need to be the most beautiful product that you sort of envision, but as long as you have something that people can understand what you want to do, then we do it.
That's so interesting. We're in the Toronto Public Library, and I used to be a freelance copywriter. I used to make my living writing, and the best advice I ever got was don't get it right, get it written. Get something down, and then you can fix it. That's really what you're referring to in
exactly.
this. I think it's a fantastic idea.
And then seminar number 3 is very close to my heart. It's aligning your product, your brand, and your voice, which is my marketing principles, what I really believe, and how are you actually going to bring your personality. I mean, as an owner, your personality, you are your brand. And that's...
Okay, could you just, what does brand mean to you? Because I think a lot of people use it in very different ways. So I want to hear your definition.
So, I mean,
brand.
The brand is what the product it stands for and it's known for, right? So I mean, when I have, say, if we talk about personal brand, is how do I present myself? How do I convey myself? How do I interact with others? And that sort of tells a lot about who I am as a person. When we're talking about a product, it's the same thing. Is what's the quality that the product entails? How is it made? Is it like, is it, if I am somebody that's very, I'm pro, like, healthy and move, I mean, I need to make sure that whatever I'm gonna, if produce, if it's a food product or it's a fitness product, is gonna be in line with what I believe. So I think as an owner, we need to, whatever we're building is gonna convey in the product that you're creating and in the company that you're building. So that is critical. So a lot of the times we see very beautiful products and you go to a store to get them and the experience is terrible. And that's part of your brand. It's like your store, the people that work for you, the customer service, every interaction that your clients have with your company are part of who you are. So, that needs to be all looked after, seen as a whole. It's not just about having a beautiful product in a box, or it is how do I present myself? Your website, it needs to be like, the logo in the box and the logo in the website needs to be the same, so people can identify and understand that it is the same company. And then if you have a reputation that's a quality product, they'll be able to associate it much faster.
So I'm guessing you just graduated from Rodman just recently, right? So I graduated from Rodman, I hate to say it, about 25 years ago. So what was very interesting was sort of the message that we got was there's a very different way of looking at brand. Is that the way we almost taught is, look, tell people enough times that you're environmentally friendly and they'll sort of believe it. And what the sort of evolving belief is, which I think makes a lot more sense, no, actually act environmentally friendly and the message will come out. Is that sort of fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to remember transparency is key for any business today. I mean, social media, and there's so much connectivity and there's so much information out there that you just can't hide it. I mean, you cannot go and say one thing and then somebody, like, a screenshot, a short video, an audio, like these days can really, like, just bring your brand down in a second. So it is so important that as a company we stay true to what we say and what we do, right? Because it is gonna, otherwise it's just gonna come back and haunt you.
Okay, number 4. So on Thursday, November 7th, we're on to seminar number 4, structuring your business to enable growth. So are we sort of assuming at this point you've got a viable business that's cash flow positive and you're looking to move to the next step? Is that sort of fair?
Well, I mean, for this particular purpose, we are delivering the seminars individual. So originally, the way I envisioned it was like a series, because that's sort of how we sort of see it during our entrepreneurship courses. But because here it's sort of like more of a free flow, people not necessarily will come to all. So ideally, yeah, I mean, at this point, it's okay. It's okay, you're ready to go. You have a product that is more than the business ready to launch. You have a product that you understand, you know how to go to market with. But then you need to build a supply chain, you need to build an operations, you need to build a team internally. You as an owner are going to be leading all of these and need to understand, as I said, what is it that the culture that you're going to bring around all these elements. So that's sort of what I want to emphasize and show in that particular seminar. And then we'll move on to finding the money. Basically, I understand that financing and monetizing is very important, right, at these seminars. My goal with this particular seminar is, first of all, trying to analyze and see different revenue streams. Again, sometimes we just feel, oh, I need to go retail with this particular product, but there's so many other avenues that we can do in terms of partnerships or, e-commerce or like a lot of other different options.
I want to talk a little bit about the financing and monetizing, because my experience has been that a lot of people think that this is what holds them back. Really, I guess what I'd like to sort of hear just sort of you reflect on right now is how important do you think it is to sort of prove the economic viability of the concept before you start asking for money, and the risks of sort of using and doing it the other way around?
I mean, I think you need to be viable before asking for money, because nobody's going to put, and first of all, you need to have some of your money in the business, and you need to have some numbers to show to get somebody to back you up. There are government grants that support, if it is government grants and other institutions grants, they usually fall under certain criteria. So a lot of them are, very innovation driven. They could be high tech driven, and that's not necessarily everybody's comfort zone. And just because there is a grant for, I don't know, blockchain, I have no clue about blockchain personally, and I'm like, I wouldn't feel comfortable unless I meet somebody that's knowledgeable in the industry. So just because there's a grant, I wouldn't suggest people need to go there. As I said before, your heart needs to be there, and you need to understand what you're getting into. But to your point, in terms of financing, I mean, you do need to have some numbers to show if you want to go to any financial institution to get some money. And also you need to have some of your own money in there in some way, shape, or form. Because otherwise, if you don't have, as they say, like some of your own skin in it, like you're just nobody's gonna believe it, because it sort of says or proves that you don't believe it in it yourself.
And our last one is staying relevant after your launch.
Yeah, so to me, the last one was a little bit about the ecosystem. I think that, as I said before, as an entrepreneur, you're gonna be a lot on your own. And I think it's important to understand that that doesn't necessarily need to be the same that way. Yes, you are going to be spending a lot of time working because you're going to be wearing a lot of hats, but there's a lot of things that you can do. Like, there's networking events, there's associations, there's incubators, accelerators, a whole bunch of seminars where you just can. So go and find them. My goal at that point is to have a little bit of that, to show a little bit of that and see where people can stay connected and stay relevant, because, and also how can they keep their messaging going after, because I see a lot of the times that people have, for the launch, they spend so much time doing their marketing and their promotion, and they go, maybe sometimes they even enlist a company and they have 6 months with this company, and you can just totally see their stats. I mean, this amazing engagement on all their, say, social media platforms or blogging and stuff, and then eventually you see this massive drop where it's like black hole time, nothing's happening. And I think it's important that, consistency is key. So how, different ways to make sure that sort of, rather than put all the effort up front, how can they actually leverage and break it a little bit?
Now, we've worked through now the seminars. Just a sort of a procedural question.
But there's also the panel.
Oh, no, sorry. Oh, sorry. Pardon me.
I want to mention the panel.
Please.
I want to mention there's something that's very exciting for me. We are having a panel, that one on October 29. That one is not taking place here. It's taking place at North York Central Library. But that one is going to be very exciting. We have 4 entrepreneurs coming to share their stories with us because I think that no matter how much content I can give out, uh, there is something to be said about hearing from other entrepreneurs what they've actually gone through. One of them is actually here with me tonight, which I'm very excited. And then we have 4 amazing, amazing entrepreneurs that my criteria, I've talked to them for the past couple of weeks, and my criteria with all of them and what makes me very happy is that they're all willing to share. I've called it the good, the bad, and the awesome of being an entrepreneur. And it's not about how successful I've been. It's not about showing your badges. It's about showing you, the failure. And failure is a big word that we're going to be talking of here. And support and networking. And what are the things that actually have helped them, I'll say, stay relevant and make it through the difficult times. Because it is a ride. There's ups and downs all the time. So that's happening on October 29th from 6 to 8 at North York Central. And I'm very excited about that one.
Now, before we get to the one-to-one, I just want a point of clarification. Is there any need for any of these seminars or the panel discussion to register in advance, or do people just show
Yeah,
up?
everything's posted on the library. So they're also on Eventbrite and Meetup. And there's just a click. Like, you just go, you sign up, and then just show up. They're all free.
Fantastic. And now let's talk a little bit about, this is on the back page, about the one-on-one consultations, how that process is going to work, and what people can expect to get out of that.
Yeah, so there are one-on-one consultations taking place during the month of November. They're going to happen from 4 to 8 p.m. here at the reference library.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask you, how relevant can you stay in your business when you failed? Like, for instance, you have your ups and downs, but it gets to a point when you feel like, I can't do this anymore. How can you keep yourself relevant?
I think that being honest and failing there's nothing wrong with it. We've all failed, and I think the important thing is, if you know the business is no longer viable and all you're doing is wasting either time or money, it's perfectly fine to say to stop it. And there's nothing wrong with it. And say I had my first business. I had to close it down, and I was not happy about it. It was super hard for me personally. I guess this is very personal. You might want to take some time to step away from it, and to bring yourself. It's very draining, physically and emotionally. So I personally took some time to, check in with myself. Like, I actually took a job during those times to sort of say, what do I want to do next? But the amount of knowledge that I gained from that failure, it's amazing. Today it's one of my biggest badges of honor. It was not great. I'm happy with what I ended up doing in the different environment. So you are going to stay relevant in the sense of learning from the experience. And there also might be ways of whatever you were doing, you might find once you take also a little bit of time, because sometimes we're so working so hard to make this thing work, and we just lose sight of why it is not working, or how can I do this different so it can work. So maybe by just stepping away from it for a little bit is going to give you a better sight. So, sometimes we just, when you're like really working on something and you need to just go for a walk, and when you come back, like your brain's much more clear. I found that that can happen to you a lot when you're just so immersed in what you're doing. So don't be afraid of taking taking a step back and say, I'm going to have a break. I'm just going to do something else and come back to this. And also sometimes businesses are a matter of time. Many entrepreneurs have had amazing ideas and opportunities, but the time was completely wrong. So, if the time's not right, whether it be for the customer base that's not there ready for something new, or for you personally in your life, it's fine. Just maybe stop it and come back and revisit it down the road.
And
Thank you so much.
if I could just show something along that, is that I've been involved in the investment industry for a number of years, and some of the most successful investment advisors are actually those people who tried to do it, failed, did exactly what Patricia's saying, reflected on it, and then went back and they really learned from what they did wrong. So if that's your position, this might be, believe it or not, the failure might have been the best thing that ever happened in the long run. If you can reflect on it, you can really get those lessons out and do it the right way. So good luck. Sir.
Could you elaborate more about on selling ideas?
Selling your ideas. Well, yeah, I mean, you might have something that it's a great, it'll be a good complement for someone else that's in the industry. So rather than maybe you even saying, I'm going to compete with this company by building these, it might be that you say, you know, this is an alternative to what this company is already doing. So I can approach them and try to reach a deal where you are an intellectual partner for them, rather than just having to go the route of setting up a company, setting up an operation, and going through all these, it's a big journey. It's going to take you a long time. That's the other thing. If it's a time-sensitive idea and you don't have the time to build and ramp up a production and operation for something, maybe you can talk to somebody that already has the capacity or is building something that can be a complement to what you're thinking of. So that's a sort of the train of thought that I am trying to go. That not necessarily you have to go from A to Z. It's you don't have to build everything for yourself. There's partnerships, there's ways to go and connect. I'm going to talk a lot more about that on Seminar 1 on Monday, so that might be I can elaborate a little bit more, because there's a lot of strategy behind it.
And don't you think a big part of that is sort of recognizing, what you do well and what you don't do well, and be willing to sort of, seed that which you don't do well to other people? Don't you think that's a huge part of sort of making the business successful?
Absolutely. As I said before, knowing what you can do and knowing what you cannot do is super important, because we're not going to be perfect for everything. You just cannot. So either you specialize in a very particular niche that taps onto that service offering that you are giving and they love it, or you understand that there's weaknesses in what you in what you can offer, or soft areas, and maybe you can just go and partner with somebody else that can bring that area of expertise to the table.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
It's so funny when you're talking about that. I was involved with a good friend, a startup company, a soup company, and it's not because I was involved in it, but this was the best soup that anybody had ever tasted in their lives. But the interesting thing was he tried to do everything. And because of that, he just burned out and just went back and did something that was just too much. And when I'm hearing you talk, what I realize is he was great at developing the recipes. He was great at the marketing. He should have got somebody to cook it for him. And then he would have been specialized in what he did, and probably would be in every store across North America right now, had he only made those correct decisions.
Totally. And I mean, if you're able to recognize it, it could be that you raise enough money and you can hire the people. But again, being honest to yourself right up front is very important. Oh my God, I have so many.
Well,
as I said, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the Eric Ries Lean Startup, because I think it helps you, as they call it, bring clarity to the chaos. There's a very old marketing book called Positioning, which is, I just cannot remember the name of the author right now, but it's called Positioning, and it's really about how different companies you can choose to choose your strategy. There is my favorite that I'm going over, or that I've gone over for the program, which is Entrepreneurial Strategy by Professor Joshua Gans. That book is actually only gonna be published in March 2020, so it is coming soon.
You read an advanced copy.
He actually gave me. I reached out. He taught me at Creative Destruction Lab earlier in the year, and I really was fascinated with his strategy, and that's what I'm going to be talking about on Monday. And he was super kind. He gave me the manuscript of half the book that's about to be published, and that's what we're going to be discussing in January. On Monday, and the book's only out next spring. So that's pretty cool. So that's 3.
Yeah, those are 3 books. That's pretty good. Okay, how about entrepreneurs? Who out there, like, who do you say is like to the entrepreneur's entrepreneur? Because I got mine, and I want to hear what yours is.
Oh my God, I have so many.
Really? Do you have so many?
Yeah, the
who people would have heard
I mean,
of?
I love Richard Branson. I mean, I think
Okay.
he's so bold and unique, and he really puts his brand is in everything. He really, he's revolutionized, like, even traveling, like, the airline experience, or like, so everything he does, I think it's great. I mean, female entrepreneurs, I love Arianna Huffington. There's in terms of like what she's done, not only before, but what she's doing now. I love Bill Gates in terms of what he's doing now as a philanthropist. So I think that there's a lot of great examples out there.
I think there are, but I think what the common thread is for every really great entrepreneur is what they tend to do is they tend to make a product or design a service that they really, really like and they really want. The one who I really reflect on is Howard Schultz in Starbucks. Basically, here's a guy who loved coffee. And then when he tested the best cup of coffee he'd ever tasted in his life, he said, boy, I'd love to figure out how to scale this. And he did, and you see them now.
Have you seen I don't know, for everybody in the audience, have you seen there's a great YouTube video where he's telling his story on YouTube?
I have not seen that.
I'll send it to you.
Oh, really? That's great.
Like, check it out, like Howard Schultz Starbucks. I mean, and it's really nice how he went to Italy and had his first cup of coffee, and he came to the UK, to the States, and he was like, why can't I find anything like it? And then how he actually expanded. And for that, around that reason, there's a great book also by Peter Thiel. He was the founder of PayPal, called
Yes.
From Zero to One. And it's also a great read for entrepreneurs because he actually talks about, say, finding that niche, building your own monopoly. And he says that every great entrepreneur wants to build a monopoly, because have that little space where nobody else is doing what you're doing. And I think Howard Schultz did amazing, because he tells his story. He says, I went to Italy, had this great cup of coffee, I couldn't find it. And then, anyway, it's a great story.
Any other questions, please? Please, yes, sir.
If you're an entrepreneur, you have to pay $35,000, so you get like all this information and so on and so forth. Is there any such thing, kind of, other than Kickstarter, where an entrepreneur with a good idea can like build from it?
There's a lot of programs. I mean, I don't have my list right here in front. There is actually a great list on the 3rd floor at the information desk. They have a great list about government grants, because I mean, it really depends how much and that's what I want to talk in the last seminar about, talking about the ecosystem and what the resources available. Every program, even say Mars, will only take you if you meet certain criteria, because they have several streams. You have to be green energy. I know they have green energy. I think they have something in the healthcare space. So, if you're outside, say, Creative Destruction Lab at Rotman is about new emerging technology. So it has to be blockchain, AI. So each incubator or accelerator has to have meet certain criterions from the product concept point of view. But they're not going to give you the money up front anyways until you have a proof of concept, and whether it be particularly in numbers in terms of proof, I mean, or that you actually have actual sales. So if what you're looking is for seed capital at a smaller level, then that's where you need to look into grants or other sorts of financing. Business Development Canada is a great option also, that they're going to be able to, but they'll lend you the money at a lower rate. It's not a grant. So there's a lot of different streams. That's for the finance seminar, I don't know if I said, Michael, that I don't have that firm, but I'm actually trying to get a guest speaker from the industry to come and talk in depth more about that, about how to actually, where to find the money and where the good, because there's a ton. I mean, right now in Toronto, there's a ton of startups, but there's also a lot of like networking and also I'll say, associations, incubators, accelerators that will be able to provide a ton of support, not just Kickstarter. I mean, Kickstarter is one option, but not everybody. Again, even for that, you need to have a good, tangible idea or product, right?
The other thing I would sort of say to anybody about the grant thing is that it tends to be very cliquish. Of course, they're not going to advertise this, but unless my experience has been, people who are sort of on the inside of the board of directors, it's going to be very hard to get that money. And then the other question is, the trade-off is, how long is it going to take you to apply for the grants? How long are you going to wait for approval? Well, you could just get a part-time job as a security guard on the weekend and cover that same amount off in a few months. So I think that's a really, really important trade-off, because I've seen a lot of people who go through the grant route and they just wait for a moment that ultimately never comes. So yeah, I think that's a really, really dangerous way to think about financing your business. That's my experience anyway.
Side job, might work in a place where the housing environment is better than Toronto, so I guess I'm packing up and heading somewhere else. Thank you.
Fair enough. Please.
Yeah, I have a question. So the question is one step before the whole entrepreneurship starts. Okay, entrepreneurship to me is adventure, and okay, I talk from my own culture, from my own upbringing. We all need safety, in the sense like that's one of the things that my parents would tell me. First earn your money, then we'll figure out if you can do a side gig. So, but you're telling the other way, like put the money where your heart is and go full on and do it systematically. So what is the step for somebody like me who's from a completely different mindset, who says that entrepreneurship is adventure, and adventure means a lot of risk and a lot of financial and the whole, like you say, right, your reputation risk. Not only the financial risk, but also the reputation. What if you fail? And can there be a mediocre entrepreneurship? I don't want to be looking only at extremely successful people. If everybody was to be a Starbucks kind of a person, then where is the mediocre? So I would be happy being, the mediocre. But though I do aim, I won't say if you give me a lot of money, I don't want. But, is there a bracket like that? The middle part of it. The safety part of it.
I'll break that into two parts. The first thing is that I'm not asking anybody to be responsible. So we have, this is a venture, and you have to be responsible with whatever you're gonna make. There are financial risks, there are personal risks, there are, as I say, reputational risks, and there's many other risks that you need to measure. I would change the word adventure. It really is uncharted territories. You don't know certain things, but you need to make sure you know a lot of things of what you're getting into and what is it that you're gonna be, what's your offering. We're talking here at a very high level, and that's what the seminars will take it to at a more granular level. But this is not an adventure like you're just gonna throw yourself in it and go with it. Like, no, you need to understand what you're getting into. It is a planned chaos, as we want to say, in the sense that there's a lot happening, but you need to, you know how much it costs you to produce what you want to produce, and you know who your client is going to be. You need to understand what technology you're going to be using to address that. And as I said, you have a core set of values that you need to comply with in order to be able to, I'll say, roll the dice and say go. But for you to be at that point, we're not going to get into financing here. Michael, that's your area of expertise, but you are going to have a financial plan to understand how much money you need to start, how much that money is going to take you, what's your break-even point, when are you going to start seeing the return. So there's a lot of components that need to be taken into consideration before you sort of jump. From somebody, if many people have full-time jobs and start a business on the side, because we all need financial security, right? Like you have to pay what you have to pay to live on a daily basis. I remember I'm a big fan of a company, a printing company it was a startup and is in the US, and they started advertising these business cards for for your 9 till 11. And I started reading this blog post about the 9 till 11, the 9 till 11, or the 6 to 11, they call it. And it's like, what are you, instead of going to see the movies or whatever, a lot of people that have a second business, they're working on that when they get home from their full-time job. We have a professor that teaches entrepreneurship at Rotman, and he was telling me he actually teaches part of his time. He was teaching here, but most of his time he spends it in Asia. And he's like, people there they all have 2-3 businesses on the side, and they don't go to the movies. They don't necessarily hang out with their friends. I mean, they are working on their business when they are just not working on the real-time job. So that's something, I mean, you can keep that financial security, and when that business is take off, at some point you are gonna have to say, I'm ready, let's do this. But you need to feel you're ready. And not only that, but you, as I said before, you need to have buy-in from the people close to you that it's okay to go that route. You can fail, it's fine, but they need to understand that if you fail, listen, there's at least, there's a saying, like, you want to make sure that at least you tried, but there's nothing wrong with not getting it. But if you never try, you're never going to know if it was worth it or not. But in terms of actually venturing, it's not just like an adventure that's without proper thinking. No, there is a science behind it, and you want to get it right.
And I also think there's like tremendous opportunity for just, don't be afraid to start small and really see whether it's meant to be. It's funny, Patricia, as you were talking, I used to, again, going back many years, have my suits made by this tailor who's just like this wonderful craftsman. But his story was that he was like working in a factory, and then he started sewing on the side because he had the knack for it. And that, he was Eastern European, so some Eastern European professionals like my father, wore his suits, and the other people saw it. What a great suit. And before you know it, this guy's working out of his own basement. He owns a house that right now would be probably worth about $3 million in Toronto. And it just happened sort of organically over the 20 or 25 years. He never really had a sleepless night because of it. So it is possible to do it that way, but I just think you've got to be a little bit patient if that's how you want to grow your business. Yeah. I think it's reckless and foolish to take wild chances. Yeah, so I'm with you on your parents' side on that one. They raised a good girl. Donovan, you're up.
Hi, I just wanted to express that it's wonderful hearing and listening to the presentation today. It's very refreshing to see somebody so into their entrepreneurship journey, and it's good to see female empowerment on stage as well, leading. So good on the librarian as well. My thing to you is this, the gentleman that came earlier, I'm sorry he left early, is that the ecosystem is actually set up with 44 schools that offer entrepreneurship to pretty much everyone that's an alumnus or anyone that participates within that space. There are a few accelerators that are set up right now in the ecosystem that, like Centennial College is out there for Scarborough, Seneca College is out there for all levels of entrepreneurs that you can just walk in, get your consulting, and it's free. This was set up through Kathleen Wynne's government in 2013. Of the injection of $295 million went in, and these resources are there for everyone. If you're an alumni, go back to your schools and try to get involved in your accelerators. The next level to that that you mentioned was Mars. Mars is the local regional incubator for all the accelerators in Toronto. If you live closer to Markham, Venture Lab would be that for you. All these spaces are there, and they primarily will give you the base level of startup. If you're not involved with those, you can't think about going after the grants. So the first level is engaging. So if you're downtown, go to George Brown, talk to Elliot at George Brown, and find out how you can engage with them so that you can be in line for those big grants. They do matching grants. They do startup venture grants. There's grants through Futurepreneur of up to $45K with, as you said earlier, with BDC Bank. So there's money out there, but one key point that Patricia laid out was that if you don't have like a minimum viable product that you can actually go through, and she'll walk you through that process, then there's no reason to just go out there and ask for money. A lot of these things are worked out, like she had stated within the conversation, that you might not even need money. You can build yourself, and I employ you guys to go to these workshops because they are full of facts, and they will walk you through step by step, and she will be your lead to empower you through your entrepreneurship journey for this start. So it's very important that you take what's free, because consulting like this can cost anywhere from $125 to $250 an hour. If you're getting it for free, you think about that saving in your business. Then it's just about navigating you to the door. For me, myself, my entrepreneurship journey started upstairs on the 4th floor as a kid that came to the library all the time just to try to get to university. And then by coming here, it enabled me to understand there are resources. Then after university and college, I used to work for the bank. So I understand the lending, loan, and the leveraging on that end, which Patricia's gonna walk you through there too, in the final workshop. But the key for you guys is to understand that there are people that are leaders like this all over the city, but she can engage you with your products and services to get you to the level where you need to be. So you need to be at those presentations. Thanks so very much for a great evening. And Michael, you do such a wonderful job every time. And the library, I'm really blessed to have had the opportunity to listen to you tonight and to engage with everybody around here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I just want to also sort of touch on Donovan and reaching out to people. So do you sort of in your entrepreneurial journeys sort of reach out to maybe people who are very successful and, try to get coffee chat meetings, things like that? And, what do you think about the importance of that and mentorship? And can you just sort of comment in general on?
Well, I love reaching out to people. I mean, it is amazing how much you can actually get out of somebody by just asking. And nobody has to help you, so you just want to make sure you ask in a really nice way. But if you present yourself as somebody that's starting, somebody that wants to learn, you're not going to ask them for the secret to what they're doing. So you have to be very mindful of that. But there's so many great conversations that I've managed to get out of people by just asking. So many coffee chats, or I even had once like somebody like a CFO or something that he actually said to me, I can't talk to you. I'm super busy. I'm going away. I'm like, call me between 7:30 and 8 a.m. I'm driving to work and I'll be happy to. And I had like 20, 30 minutes with this person. And I got like so much insight from them. So there's a lot that you can learn. Today, if you think that through Twitter or through Instagram or anything else, you can actually get somebody, like, it's so easy. Like, you can send a direct message. Most of the people that you might want to talk to say they're on Twitter. You can just send a direct message, and there you go. There's you have LinkedIn, you have social media, don't be shy. The worst thing, I've had people that never reply, or I've had people that just simply, I'm sure they say delete. And I'm like, okay, that was not the right avenue or the right person, but there's somebody else that might be doing or might know what you want to know.
Just a hint about that, if you're looking to find somebody or reach out to somebody who's like really, really big or really, really famous, what I would recommend is write them a letter first. And the reason why I say that is that every Christmas I get about 10 electronic emails and about 10 paper Christmas cards. I immediately delete the electronic emails after looking at them. I have Christmas cards from 20 Christmases ago. Nobody does that anymore. Then you can follow up with the LinkedIn or the Twitter, and there'll be that instant recognition. It's demonstrated that you've just gone to that little bit more trouble than somebody else. And speak to their personal situation. Demonstrate that you've done a little bit of research about them. I really admire the way that you built this company. I understood how you started out in the difficulty. There's actually a wonderful story about that, about how the Toronto Raptors got their franchise in the first place. By the way, almost nobody knows this story. So if you remember back, if you're a basketball fan, there were 3 different groups who were bidding for the Toronto Raptor franchise. And the group who actually got them was led by the Bidoff family. And they were by far the least favored ones to get the franchise going into the presentation. So the first 2 presenters who did these wild kind of crazy light shows, you know, laser like thousands and thousands of dollars productions. John Bidoff started speaking, and he said to the owner, he went to the first owner, and I remember this because the owner was Greek. He said, "Mr. Karagias, I know that you came to Canada from Greece 40 years ago. What you don't know is that my father was born in a village 100, and he spoke to each of their personal situations. And then after that, it was a done deal who was going to get it because he reached and he connected with them emotionally. So if you're going to make that contact, think about how you're going to do it strategically. These are busy people. You got one chance to make that impression. Make it count."
Sorry, the other thing I want to say is like, know what you want. As I say, know what you want to know. You have to be very specific. They don't have a lot of time, but also you don't necessarily need to go to the most important person all the time. I mean, they probably are the busiest ones, but there's a lot of other people either around them or in smaller companies that might be more like willing to do that.
Any other questions? No, well, good. Well, you know, I think we should wrap it. I think we've had a great evening, and I think everybody, myself included, is really appreciative of Patricia's time. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got a very clear idea of what the programs are and how to access them. And as Donovan said, Donovan, thank you for that. Is it really, if you are a budding entrepreneur, I think you're making a huge mistake not to take advantage of this truly, truly amazing resource. And Annie, I'd like to thank you for once again putting on a fantastic evening, a fantastic event.
Okay, great. Thank you for attending the 2019 Entrepreneur in Residence launch. We hope you take full advantage of all the resources Patricia Quintero will be offering. Please take a brochure from the display table for her office hours, seminars, panel discussion, and one-on-one consultations. We also want to thank Michael Halinka for launching this year's Entrepreneur in Residence program. If you can also complete the feedback form, this will help us to shape future programs like these. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.